Hello class. In this video, we are going to go over the Unit 1 Part 1 test review sheet here, which comprises and from our textbook of sections 1.1 through 1.6. First question, determine whether the underlying value is a parameter or a statistic. Explain your choice. In a national survey on substance abuse, 66.4% of respondents who were full-time college students aged 18 to 22 registered using alcohol within the past month. Due to the way this here is written, discussing this being a national survey on substance abuse, the 66.4% is going to be the parameter. Since it is a national survey, they did not attempt to identify any specific grouping of this, just that these students were full-time college students aged 18 to 22. And specifically those full-time college students aged 18 to 22 is the population. The second question, determine whether the variable is qualitative or quantitative, the number on an athlete's jersey. And this is going to be a qualitative measurement, right? And why is that? Because this is used for some type of classification. And trying to add or subtract jersey numbers does not really make sense. For number 3, we want to determine the level of measurement of the variable, the height of a child, 28 inches, 29 inches, 30 inches, 31 inches, and 32 inches. Those are just examples. But height is going to be a ratio level of measurement. Ratio, and that is because we can multiply or divide and make sense. So specifically, we could say that someone is 2 times as tall, or half as tall. And although a child would not be this, but a 0-inch height does indeed make sense as being something such as a piece of paper. So the 0-inch height makes sense. All right, so number 4, a quality control manager randomly selects 80 bottles of orange juice that were filled on June 21st to assess the calibration of the filling machine. What is the population and what is this sample? So specifically our sample is going to be the 80 bottles of orange juice filled on June 21st. And because the sample is a very small amount of the population. The population is going to be all bottles of orange juice. Filled on June 21st. For question number 5, we want to know what does it mean when an observational study is retrospective and also prospective. Do note these would be different questions, but I kind of combine them here. So retrospective. This is where we would recall information or use existing records. A prospective study this is data over time. Specifically in the future sense, due to the pro being the prefix of that word. So then in question number 6, we want to determine whether the study depicts an observational study or an experiment, and then explain. 80 patients with stomach cancer are divided into 2 groups. One group receives an experimental drug to fight cancer, and the other a placebo for 1 year. This is an example of an experiment. Specifically, they control this idea of using the drug or the placebo. For part B, 4th grade students are randomly divided into 2 groups. One group is taught English using traditional techniques. The other is taught English using a reform method. After 1 year, each group is given an achievement test to compare its proficiency with that of the other group. This is another example of an experiment. And that is because they are controlling the teaching method, meaning the traditional teaching method or the reform method. For question number 7 now. We have a blank is obtained by dividing the population into homogeneous groups and randomly selecting individuals from each group. So, because these are homogeneous groups, and they're first divided into that, and then we would then randomly select individuals from each group. This particular word in this particular case is going to be a block, right? Due to the randomized block experimental design, the block would be obtained by dividing the population into the homogeneous groups and then sampling within each of those blocks. For question number 8, we have the manager of a shopping mall wishes to expand the number of shops available in the food court. She has a market researcher survey the first 80 customers who come into the food court during weekend afternoons to determine what types of food the shoppers would like to see added to the food court? What type of bias does this survey have, and then how can it be limited? So the bias in this case is going to be the sampling bias. Why is that? That is because they are just asking the first 80 customers who come into the food court during weekend afternoons. And how can this be limited? They could ask customers. Throughout the day and week. This is part 1 of this Unit 1, Part 1 review, and I'll see you in the next video for the second part of this Unit 1, Part 1 test review.